So guys, in this next news story, a raid on a stash house saw a dad and son slashed and £1 million of cocaine stolen, which sparked a chain of events that led to the downfall of one of Liverpool's most powerful gangsters. Vincent Coggins, who was on the top of an organised crime group involved in the supply of huge amounts of cocaine and heroin across the UK. It's believed that Coggins and his brother bought up in the Knowsley's Cantrell Farm district in the 70s and 80s, built their powerful drug gang from nothing in a bona fide cartel that rivaled factions from Ireland, Eastern Europe and South America. Sources had previously stated that the pair avoided disputes and city fallouts wherever possible, but they're also not afraid of ordering devastating violence to be carried out on anyone who compromised their interests. May 23rd, 2020, there was a violent armed robbery carried out at an address in West Derby. The targeted attack, conducted by rival gangsters who knew drugs were stashed there, saw the homeowner and his son severely assaulted and huge amounts of cocaine stolen. Vincent Coggins, along with his criminal associates, including his right-hand man Edward Jarvis, resolved to identify who they were. But Vincent Coggins did not want to find them and get his drugs back. He also expressed his desire to kill them, and little did he and his criminal associates know that their every move was being tracked by the hack of the EncroChat. This ultimately led to the gang's downfall and Vincent Coggins' arrest and conviction. And after 4 years of report and instructions, it can be now stated that those identified and those involved in the gang, they can be revealed. So the Coggins brothers, Jarvis and a number of their associates were career criminals who would turn their hand to whatever paid, but during the drugs boom in the 1990s, they saw the opportunity to get rich quick, moving over to Spain to establish an organised syndicate that smuggled cocaine from South America through Europe and into the UK. Once there, the gang, known in the criminal world as the Huyton firm, had established supply networks that spread the whole of the UK. The amounts of Class A drugs they dealt in resulted in extreme wealth. A court sentencing for Paul Fitzsimmons, a criminal associate who answered directly to Francis Coggins, previously heard the organised crime gang's overall involvement in Class A drugs over a 3-month period was calculated at 148 kilos of coke and 248 kilos of heroin. However, the true amount could even be higher. It was understood that the Coggins imported their cargo through the port of Liverpool. Analysis of messages saw the group referring to workers at the port watching containers to see whether they attracted intelligence from port agency authorities. It was likely that these supply routes that opened up Coggins' gang to receive shipments from anywhere in the world, which were a driving force in allowing the gang to build international power and reputation. Investigators stated that they don't know exactly when the gang started to use EncroChat, because the network was favoured, as we know, by high-profile criminals. Using the EncroChat network, Coggins and his associates arranged and carried out multiple deals involving huge sums of drugs and cash. They communicated with other gangs both in Merseyside, across the UK, across the world, overseeing supply lines, and they thought their message was going secret. But, as we know, the French and Dutch authorities hacked the EncroChat network in April 2020. And that's when police monitored their every move. So at the top was Vincent Coggins. His handle was Moonlit Bolton. Under him were Michael Earl and Jarvis, who went by the handles Bladehedge and Softherb, respectively, while their associate Paul Woodford used the handle King Wasp. There were other associates including Dean Burrows, Fitzsimmons, Darren Tierney and Kevin Rimmer. They were linked to the handles Oliver Scoot, Northney, Scalp Staff and Sappy Stag, though their disclosures of personal information. And 2 other handles, Tal K9 and machete, feature prominently in the messages between Vincent Coggins, Jarvis, Earl and Woodford. So the barrister stated that the chat revealed that the users of both the handles were based in Amsterdam during this period, and that evidence strongly suggests that he was Vincent Coggins' brother Francis. That he played an important authoritative role within the group, and Jarvis referred to him on most matters, and he often discussed important strategic decisions with his brother Vincent. Francis Coggins had not yet been apprehended in relation to the investigation. Messages between the Coggins brothers and Jarvis revealed that the gang discussed the sale of tops and bots. The EncroChat message showed the gang discussed international shipments and deals, while also advertising their belter products to buyers in Scotland, South Wales and elsewhere. But the gang also shared personal information about each other that helped the police's investigation. On one occasion, Jarvis and Vincent Coggins were discussing making a trip to Costco, and Jarvis used his mobile phone to connect to a mast that provided coverage to Costco, and Vincent Coggins was a member at Costco, conducted 2 transactions where frozen crispy duck was purchased, and later that evening the pair used EncroChat to discuss if the duck could be cooked from frozen or if it had to be defrosted. So guys, it all went left when the stash house was robbed. So basically there was CCTV footage from a neighbour's home which showed a violent attack. Around 9:30 in the morning, a white van pulled up outside the stash house. 4 men got out, 3 wearing dark clothes and a balaclava, while a 4th posed as a delivery man. They rushed towards the house where they were met by a stunned dad and son, launching into a savage attack that resulted in one of the men almost losing an arm after it was slashed down to the bone. Police received a call from the man's son and said, "These lads just came into the house and they started stabbing me, dad, and there's blood everywhere." But by the time, and unknown to the family who were there, their attackers had left the scene with a bag containing £1 million worth of cocaine. The rest of the gang heard about the robbery was when Francis Coggins saw a report in the newspaper about the stabbing. At 7:41 p.m. that night, Vincent Coggins knew the drugs were gone. It was there that the ruthlessness of Coggins brothers was truly shown. Without a definitive name, Vincent Coggins' suspicions first fell on one of the men, and Vincent Coggins messaged Jarvis his eyes and ears on the investigations. "Got to be the son. Fuck it, I'll kill him." In the following days, Vincent Coggins directed his troops to find those responsible. After obtaining a CCTV video, he directed Jarvis and Fitzsimmons to distribute it across the underworld for help, and when he had a name, he started to place a plan in action. He messaged Earl, "Mate, can you sort pineapple tonight?" a term which is used to refer basically a hand grenade, while Woodford offered to buy a firearm and ammunition on Vincent Coggins' behalf. His target was Brian Maxwell, a professional drug dealer who later used the EncroChat phone network to source weapons including semi-automatic AR-15 rifles and AK-47s to protect himself from attack. Even when present with potential evidence that Maxwell Jr. could not have been involved in the robbery because he had CCTV of him at home all day and advised to leave it until the following day, Vincent Coggins refused. He messaged Earl, "No mate, tonight, now got to be done, we don't mess around." It's only failure in delivering the grenade to the attacker that halted the proceedings for another day. Vincent Coggins reported to Earl his intentions at approaching Brian Maxwell's dad with an ultimatum: return the drugs or the money or he would pay. Having monitored the messages, the police took the first steps to disrupt Vincent Coggins' plans. They visited Brian Maxwell Jr.'s home and issued him with a threat to life notice known as an Osman. Armed police also visited an address linked to Vincent Coggins to issue a disruption notice, a warning not to engage in any criminal activity. Undeterred, he continued set in motion in his plan to kill Brian Maxwell Jr. as well as 2 of the men he believed were involved. On May the 28th, Jarvis messaged Vincent Coggins alleged evidence that the pair considered incriminating the 3 men even further in the robbery. An EncroChat message around 2:30 that day said, "He told me they were all out together, Maxwell, Bosser, Eve, Saturday afternoon till Sunday for anniversary drinks. So Maxwell saying he got CCTV of himself not leaving the house on Saturday is a fucking lie." Later that day, Coggins messaged Fitzsimmons saying they're all getting it. The Maxwell communicated with Vincent Coggins, Earl and Jarvis through a third party, a man who is still due to appear before the courts, and fearing an attack on his son is imminent, Maxwell Sr. sent a proposal. He knew his son had not committed the robbery, but understanding the threat, said, "My solution involves me, and me alone paying the bill, and then it's me that's been robbed. I'd rather have him than the money. And it won't be in grip because I haven't got it anymore than he has. Then it's down to me to find out who done it. Any money I've got means fuck all if he's dead." Maxwell Sr. offered around £1.36 million to Vincent Coggins, split into cash in the sale of land and a house. Vincent Coggins accepted the offer, but a chilling message to Earl later that same day showed it was just a temporary piece. Says, "Fuck me, still going to kill them all, but can take time now. Leave the dad alone." Police disruption continued despite the movements of the gang, and police attended Maxwell Sr.'s home and gave him an Osman warning while Earl was issued a disruption notice. Unnerved by the police attention, Earl appeared to back out. However, Vincent Coggins was undeterred. He wrote back, I'm staying till I've got every penny and at least done one of these." On June the 3rd, Maxwell Sr. signed over the money, the land and the house. With police sniffing around his business, Vincent Coggins asked Woodford to use his Police Connect, known as the computer man, to get copies of what was being said about him on the National Police Computer Database, and the Connect told him that there were new updates to Vincent Coggins' profile, but they had not been able to take a photo. These were arranged through another EncroChat contact, Michael Burns, who used the handle $1 million. Merseyside police later stated an anti-corruption team reviewed the messages and an extensive search of the force's systems in relation to those individuals to carry out to identify if there was any unauthorized access to information in relation to them and to identify any potential suspects. So when the stash house was robbed, Vincent Coggins messaged Jarvis saying, "No way, Manx, fuck a local," referring to the fact that he could not believe a Manchester gang would be brave enough to come down the M56 and carry out the raid. So Salford men Jason and Craig Cox had targeted the stash house in collaboration with the Liverpool career criminal Richard Caswell. The tight-knit Cox crime gang were involved in the large-scale drug dealing, but in a bid to step up in the underworld, Jason Cox decided to join force with Caswell, who was a well-known figure previously linked to a spacer bombings across the city in 2003 and 2004. After a number of surveillance trips to scope out the address, they raided the house, making off with £1 million worth of cocaine, which Jason Cox split with Caswell. Jason Cox would go on to sell his shares to notorious drug dealer Leon Atkinson, an associate of both the police killer Dale Cregan and the Merseyside-based suppliers, the Cassidy brothers. In the aftermath of the robbery, Jason Cox said in an EncroChat message how he got cocaine from the biggest firm in Liverpool, but he also realised the threat he now faced, and messages showed he inquired about renting a new flat and eventually fled with his brother Lee to Spain, and Caswell was playing an even more dangerous role. As Coggins' firm desperately tried to work out who had ripped them off, they asked him directly if he had information regarding the raid, and Caswell played dumb and said he would ask around, but passed on what they had told him to Jason Cox. The fallout and the identity of the robbers was seismic in the underworld. Arson attacks at properties linked to the Cox family in Salford reported to Greater Manchester Police, while Caswell was slashed in HMP Manchester. A spokesperson for the Manchester Force said that they had issued a number of Osmond warnings to the Cox family and their associates, and was working with the prison services after Jason Cox said he would have to look over the shoulder for the rest of his life. The Cox brothers Caswell and a foot soldier Ben Monks Gorton, who posed as a delivery driver, were all jailed last year. So the sentences are part of Operation Sub-Zero of Vincent Coggins. He was jailed for 28 years. Paul Woodford for 24 years. Michael Earl for 11 years. Darren Tierney for 12 years. Paul Fitzsimmons for 12 years. Kevin Rimmer for 16 years. Dean Burrows for 14 years, Paul Glynn for 11 years, Robert Jarvis, he's due to be sentenced. And now, 4 men who worked for the Cox brothers have been told they must pay back £190,000 or face more time in prison. Richard Caswell, Michael Nevin, Jack Brownshill and Scott Smith were obviously cronies of the notorious Cox family. Caswell worked with the brothers Jason and Craig Cox to carry out the robbery, as we just heard. And in court last month, Jason and Craig Cox and their older brother Lee Cox were ordered to pay back a total of £121,000 in 3 months, or have 9 months added to their existing prison sentence. Caswell, Nevin, Brownshill and Smith have now also been ordered to pay back their ill-gotten gains following hearings at Manchester Crown Court on this March the 3rd just gone. So Caswell, he's told that he must pay £74,956 within 3 months, or have 10 months added to his sentence. Nevin, he's been told he'll have to pay £29,780 within 3 months, or have 8 months added to his sentence. You got Jack Brownshill. He was ordered to pay £29,780 or have 8 months added to his sentence. And Scott Smith, who received a suspended sentence, was ordered to pay £485 within 3 months or have 7 days added to his sentence. Luke Clements, the specialist prosecutor from the CPS Proceeds of Crown Division, said criminals shouldn't become richer or be able to live off what they make from drug dealing and related offences, and that's why the CPS took these 4 men back to court. In total, they have to pay back £190,000 or have prison time added to their sentences they've already been given. If more of their assets become available in the future, then the CPS can take them back to court to increase the confiscation order they have to pay. And also, a caveat to this is that if a defendant refuses to pay the confiscation order in a timely way, the CPS Proceeds of Crown Division can invite the court to impose an additional default sentence on them of up to 14 years imprisonment, and the full debt continues to be enforced until it is paid, and interest is charged against it at the civil judgment debt rate, which is currently 8%.